Alright, in this video we're going to talk a little more specifically about something I indicated in the previous video. We're going to talk about poetic parallelism. We're going to look a little bit at what parallelism means and how it works in its three primary types that we encounter in Hebrew poetry. So, as I said in that video, but we'll say again, the way Hebrew poetry is primarily characterized is that one line in what's called a colon, and it will be in relationship to the second line. The elements, be it the primary subject, the verb, will be related but different. The key will be in understanding Hebrew poetry to read how the two inform one another. What's the relationship and what's the poem doing with those two lines? So the three types are synonymous parallelism, antithetical parallelism, and synthetic parallelism. So synonymous parallelism is a type in which the first line in the colon and the second line say the same thing just in different words. Maybe a way of emphasizing one element or the other, or explaining one element in light of the other, and so forth. So as an example, I'm going to read this. I'm just going to read the English for you because you can hear the parallelism even in the English. This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, that well-known verse in the creation story. It says, God created humanity in God's own image. That's line 1. And then in the divine image, God created them. Male and female, God created them. So I want to focus on those last two lines there. In the divine image, God created them. Male and female, God created them. So in hearing that, you'll notice that God created them is repeated. So what that often would do then was indicate that the two lines here are synonymous. They're saying the same thing, but the first part changes. So that helps us to understand one in light of the other. So the first part of line 1 was in the divine image. The first part of line 2, male and female. So the rules of parallelism would indicate to us that something about what it means to talk about the divine image is made up of male and female together, based on this parallel relationship being established here. To talk about the divine image, whatever else it might mean, it means male and female together, and not one or the other, not each as in the image, but together. In their togetherness, they reflect the divine image. So here is synonymous parallelism. It's showing how one line is parallel to the other, saying the same thing, but doing so from a different perspective. Antithetical parallelism, as you can hear in the word, it says the opposite. So it'll say the first line, and then it will say its opposite in the next line. So here's an example, Proverbs 12:15. Proverbs 12:15. Fools see their own way as right, but the wise listen to advice. So in the first line we're talking about fools, and it's their own way is right. The second line, the antithesis, the wise, and what they do differently is they listen to advice. So the fool is characterized by doing essentially what's right in the fool's eyes, and seeing that as being the right way and only way. But the wise are those who listen to advice. So those two are saying the opposite, but together they form one whole about the truth that's being discussed here. So that's the way antithetical parallelism works. Finally, we come to number 3, which is synthetic. And if we're being honest, this is essentially a catch-all category for everything else that we see in poetry. So the pinning down usually what happens is if you've identified that a line of poetry is not synonymous and it's not antithetical, you call it synthetic. There are some different types even within synthetic, but as an example here, Psalm 4:4, here's what we have. So be afraid and don't sin. Think hard about it in your bed and weep over it. So be afraid, don't sin. Think hard about it in your bed and weep over it. So these aren't really saying the same thing or opposite things. In fact, what's going on in the second line is the first line is being furthered. It's being carried further. Be afraid, don't sin. Think hard about it in your bed and weep over it. That's what you're supposed to do about sin. So it takes it further. So this is one common type of synthetic parallelism. So again, synonymous, saying the same thing but in different ways. Antithetical, saying the opposite to create a whole that is made up of the two parts. And synthetic, a category that catches all, sometimes and often is marked by taking the first line further than it went in the first line. All right, we'll have a chance to look at more of this week. If you have any questions, let me know.